Record. Jaclyn, tell us who you are.
Hey everyone, I'm Jaclyn Fidler. I'm based in Manhattan and have been in sales for 10 years now, and recently accepted a job with LinkedIn as I'll be moving into their mid-market relationship manager position come Monday. So
Amazing.
really excited to be here. First timer, and just super excited to get this started.
And snakes or spiders, which one is worse?
Spiders, hands down, 100%. I watch a ton of Naked and Afraid. You can eat both spiders and snakes, but spiders are just like, no, hard no.
Amy.
All right, well, I have to agree with Jaclyn. Definitely spiders. Ever since Arachnophobia, the movie, like it's, I just can't do spiders. I'll kill them, but, and those wolf spiders that have like the little babies on their back, like those mama wolf spiders, those are like those videos of someone like hitting it with the broom and like the baby's just scattering. Oh God. Okay. Anyways. So I am a territory account manager for Fortinet based in just north of Dallas, Texas, and been at this sales thing for 17 years this year. So, and I'm just excited to be here with you guys. And Gil, one of the originals. So nice to have you back.
Awesome. Chris, tell us who you are, my friend.
Chris Bowen in the tech hub that is Louisville, Kentucky. Everybody, like I was telling Francois, usually has it on their bucket list, at least for the Derby, or bourbon, or both, depends on the day. Right now, I do a little bit of consulting on the side, trying to help other companies with their GTM strategy and make sure they understand sometimes why they need one, which is surprising, but it is what it is. Also looking for my next full-time gig, but that's a different thing. Been in sales-oriented roles since 2002, so a few years of experience. Mixture of technology and consulting companies in that mix, and always sort of technically oriented. And I'd have to go with spiders as well. And I did hear that no matter where you are, if you're on the planet, you're never more than 6 feet away from a spider. So that should just help everybody.
I don't want to hear that.
Doesn't help.
Alex.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that when I'm about to do my intro, knowing that I'm in this room and I could be 6 feet away from a lot of spiders? Thanks, Chris. My name is Alex Meade. I co-own an inbound and content marketing agency, and so I am a marketer, a video creator and marketer turned salesperson about 4 or 5 years ago. So I've been learning a lot of this on my own without any real formal training, and groups like this and groups like Thursday Night Sales and Rev Genius have really, I think, escalated my my education very quickly in the last year. So very happy to be here. In terms of, I really don't like spiders and I really don't like snakes. So it's a really hard one. I feel like spiders, they're so small and terrifying. Arachnophobia, my dad let me watch all kinds of movies when I was a kid. I must have been 8 when I watched that, 7. So terrified of spiders. My wife has to kill them in our house. I also don't like snakes. I live out in California and we have a lot of rattlesnakes, and you got to be careful because you don't see them and you hear them at the last second. And I'm neither. I don't want any of them. Neither.
Patrick, the man who needs no introduction. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, Patrick Downs. I'm the sales enablement manager at PandaDoc, co-host of the Customer Engagement Lab, and I'm also just barely hanging on to the last thread of my sanity. I would say that snakes and spiders I both like, because most of the people I was friends with in high school are the people that most people are scared of. So they had like tarantulas and snakes and terrariums in their rooms, and I hung out with them a lot. But I will say spiders, because when I was working at a convenience store on a graveyard shift once, there was this huge spider just hanging down near the door, and I was about to get a broom to knock it down, and that motherfucker just kicked back and then swung at me like it was coming at me with its last life and tried to get me. So I was like, all right, I didn't like that spider, so I'll go with that.
Beauty. All right, Gil, you've been here before. Tell us who you are and then how we can help you.
So my name is Gil Cohen. I'm a consultant out of the Greater Toronto area. I started out on my own as a consultant 15 months ago, beginning of January 2020, right before the pandemic hit. perfect timing to start your own business, let me tell you. Before that, for most of my career, I was a consultant, but on the delivery end. Prior to starting as a consultant, I had never sold a single dollar of anything in my life, which was fortuitous that I found my friends here at 5 on Friday a year ago to help me on the path and learn from them and others. Between snakes and spiders, I would say it depends where I am. If I'm in Australia, then I'm definitely more scared of the snakes, because that's where I think 8 of the 10 deadliest snakes in the world live. And if it's a snake there, it can kill you. Whereas around here, a snake's not so scary and spiders keep me up at night. So that one. What I need help with, aside from everything, I'll try to be a little bit more specific than everything. So essentially, for the last 6 months, I have not focused nearly enough on sales. I've done a lot of either delivery of client work and building. I've done a lot of building, both in terms of some training and in terms of a pilot for a framework that I put together. So after putting together the framework, I have this offering that I've built out that I know my target market. I used to be my target market because it's solo HR professionals in small businesses. And that's what I did for 2 years. I know the market well. Based on the pilot, this works, this provides value. And I am just having a mental block about outreach, about how to do it most effectively. And then once I've gotten the conversations, what to do in them and how to structure my calls, because it's a relatively transactional thing. The price is 2,500 Canadian, 2,000 US. So it's not something that should require long sales processes for. So I'm trying to figure out what's my best method of outreach. And once I have a call with people, what's my best method of taking them from interest, discovery through closing?
Okay, well, I'm just going to jump in and say that your kids should be drawing all of your prospecting material, like all of your marketing material should just be your kids' drawings, because I love like your backdrop. Like I'm just staring at it thinking like, I'd buy anything from this man as long as he can draw pictures like that for me. So definitely incorporate that somehow.
It's funny you say that, because I do incorporate that at times, because I was recommended by a colleague a while back that what I do is I actually my younger son takes requests. So especially for prospects who mention my background, I ask them to take a video, and then my son will do the request because he loves it. He's like, did any of your friends request anything today? And then I can send them a picture of it saying, hey, this is your request. And some of them end up on the wall behind me.
Oh gosh, that could get really dangerous though. Like,
Ooh, yeah.
Wait, my request is a horse. So
a horse,
just
awesome.
A horse.
Done.
Yeah.
I'll get that one. For
awesome.
You.
I request a
He's
spider.
a little bit behind. He's a little bit
Yes, a violent looking spider.
And then I request a foot that's going to step on Jaclyn's spider, if that's okay.
So I'll have one spider and then the foot above it somewhere on the wall.
Yeah.
Perfect. So
we're kind of joking around about this, but if you think about at least HR professionals that I know, and maybe I have a small sample size, is they are definitely family orientated. That is one of the characteristics, we all are, and I understand that it's not just one profession, but at least the HR professionals that I've had experience with either really enjoy family, have kids, have families. And I think there's something more to that. I think prospecting, it's really about personalization. And that's a big word that everyone's saying these days, that it's really knowing your audience. And I think you seem to know your audience really well. And maybe your target markets are a little different, but I think finding a way to bring that personalization in of your kids' drawings, because that is pretty unique. That is pretty interesting. And finding that way to be a cue or step into their world, to catch them, to hook them into what you're doing and what you're offering. Is you're not just a SDR at a company, but you're a dad, you own the thing. You are really just trying to help with your products and services. Maybe there's like something more to that.
I agree.
Book a
and I think-
meeting, get a picture.
Yeah, and so let's break it down in terms of like tactically. Let's say Jaclyn was a target customer. Right now, how would you go about reaching out to her? And then let's try and help you out there. So let's say she's that target customer. What's the first piece of outreach you would do to her?
So I have sort of two separate groups of target customers. I have ones of lists of people that I don't know but fit my target market, who I found on SalesNav. And then I have a obviously much smaller list of people who I'm connected with on LinkedIn. I know they know who I am. They've at least liked something of mine over the time. I try to keep that list to people who I didn't just connect with, but people who I've at least been connected with for a couple of months. And so in terms of the first list, I send out cold emails. And in terms of the second list, because I've been in building mode and I still have a workshop that I'm doing next Thursday night, which I'm finally, once I do that, I'm turning on to the sales engine. My intent is to send them video messages on LinkedIn. That's what I plan on doing. That's where I'll tell you I'm having a little bit of writer's block in terms of how to word that message and how to be authentically me, convey that I have something to sell, and respect their time all at once. And I would say I'm struggling with that.
I'll tell you that for the, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
For the first group, I think one of the things that you're going to have to do is selling in that initial contact is probably something you don't want to do. You have to establish credibility and relevance first. So they have to know that, hey, you understand their problem. You have something that you believe can solve a particular issue, but they're not going to look at your product yet. They need to know that you have a particular perspective on this topic and you're able to address that, right? You have to build that credibility and relevance. For the people who already know you, you can skip past a little bit of that, right? And get into more of your selling. So you have to, depends on which group you're looking at, how you're going to end up having to reach them. So you're going to have to automatically assume that you're going to have multiple touch points with that larger first group than you would with the second group, because you're already past a certain portion in your sales cycle.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing, and somebody else jump in, but I'm hearing like you need to build, and I know playbook sounds not complicated, but it's not, we're not talking about a super sophisticated one, but okay, for the people that are on that list that don't know you, what's the playbook? And for the people that you know, what's the playbook? So what's the messaging? And I'm not saying it needs to be a template for everyone, but like, Jacinda and Alex are talking about like the video messaging. So, what is your video message? I think we've already talked about incorporating what's behind you is probably a good idea. So where do you want to maybe go next? Do you want to talk about where would you say you're having more pain? Is it the people that don't know you or the people that do know you?
See, I would say in terms of pain, the people who do know me, because the people who don't know me, I just started sending out the emails. My wife helps me with that in terms of started sending out these emails. I will say that a fair number of them get opened. I have also a click to my website. There are a fair number that are clicking through to my website from there. And like Chris said, that's a first email that I know I'm going to have to put more effort and more touch points into that. Whereas I'm thinking that the people who already know me, there's higher value in that because I'm already past a couple of gates. I've already proven knowledge, relevance, all of that kind of thing, that they've been following me this long, haven't unfollowed me yet. So that my belief is that I would get more outcomes going down that path initially, while also sort of on the side continuing with the touch points of people that don't know me.
Quick question for the group. Go ahead, Jack.
And I don't know if that's right at all. And you six can tell me whether I'm way off on that subject, or if you know what, that's the right way to go.
Go ahead, Jaclyn.
So I think I could be of some help here, as I was tasked with creating the outbound strategy for my former company at Burn Rate, and also was tasked with rebuilding out the outbound emails because my open rates were higher at a different company. And so when you're doing outreach, I think that you should think about the multiple touch points and keep these different kinds of touch points in mind, because it can get stale. So always call. Like, I'm a fan of picking up the phone, leaving a voicemail, testing out what works, what doesn't. Also a LinkedIn message, but take it one step further and do a LinkedIn voice note. Like, I just think that people aren't really utilizing that enough. You can also then do a cold email where you may insert a Loom GIF, and Loom is what I use in video mail. It's free, it's easy. Keep those videos down to under 60 seconds where you can introduce yourself. And like, people would rather watch than read these days. That's the reality of the world we live in. So that I've had much traction with when it comes to, I send video mail for everything, breaking into a company, recapping our call, and sending a thank you email. And Loom will help you do that by sharing your screen and recording your screen and your face. Then there's a few other things you can do, like having your son send a snail mail of something that they maybe commented on that they liked from their LinkedIn, like sending a drawing. That's a personal touch. Same with the voice notes, same with the video. And then there's one other thing that I think is really powerful. It's with your two groups of people. You have the ones that know you and the ones that don't. Why don't you host a webinar and make it interactive? And then you could see like what the feedback is from people and then you could send out a Survey Monkey actually to ask how that webinar was, if it was beneficial, and you can see how both groups do. But that's a really cool way to just introduce yourself that I don't think a lot of people are taking advantage of, is just hosting weekly webinars where you're just inviting anyone and everyone who would think this would be a good fit for. So
Jaclyn, just so I'm clear, you're saying you don't even do cold email, you do cold video. Like, you don't even do email, you just do video. You do some email, but you're saying you always lead with video.
So
yeah, there's like 7 touches usually in my outreach, and I just find that video is just drives it home that much faster. Yeah. I was rejected, for example, from a position at a really hot company, and I was referred in by 2 people with clout. And I sent them a Loom video, the recruiter, saying, before you reject me, this is why you should get on a call with me. And that led to 3 other calls with this company. So it really goes a long way. And it's something that I don't think enough people are taking advantage of.
So in terms of sending the Loom video, is just because I've made videos with Loom, but I've never shared them by email. Is the video actually in the email itself, or they have to click through to it?
There's 3 ways you can share it. You can do hyperlink. And right within Loom, you go to the share, it's at the top, and it will give you a drop down of a bunch of different things. So you can just do like share link. I like to do share GIF, where it inserts my video right into the email. And then you can also, there's a bunch of different options, but like it's very, very straightforward. I'm not that tech savvy and was able to figure out immediately, but I would fool around with different types, sending that Loom video via cold email or via LinkedIn message.
But ultimately, it does go to a different link to watch it, to clarify. So even if it's the GIF, the videos, the pictures, like all those are really good, engaging things. But ultimately, if they click, they go to Loom's, wherever the video is hosted on Loom or Soapbox or Vidyard or whatever.
But I like the GIF as well, because it shows like whatever a 3-second animation, if you will, of the person. So it isn't just this stale picture. And it gives them like a preview. So whether you insert that into an email or a LinkedIn DM, they see this kind of loop of where you're about to start. And it's an easy, it takes them there. So I agree with that. So then let's say, Jaclyn's liked some of your content, you've liked some of her content. She's, you can describe whatever that target persona would be in terms of a title. She's agreed to a call now. What's that next step? Like, what do you have? Do you call it the discovery call? What's that next step for you?
So the next step for me is it's a combination of a discovery call and sort of trying to move things forward in terms of sale, in terms of, understanding what their environment is like, what are the issues lead somebody to want, to find benefit from this framework that I've put together. I haven't had any of these calls yet because I haven't had, completed on the outreach yet. I'll be completely forward about that. And I also will say, for the record, I say GIF, not GIF. I'm with Francois on this one. But that is based on the calls that I've had in terms of selling. It's first I start with trying to understand what's their environment. There's certain things that would lead me to believe they are good or not good candidates, because a person is a solo HR person in a small company, there's still a range within that. Some people it's valuable for, some people it's not. And so understanding that, and then trying to understand what their next step, if they do have interest, if they want to go through with it, what the next step would be, most likely speaking to their CEO and getting the budget for it.
So what makes the most sense in the close to half an hour we have here, doing a, sort of put you on the spot, Gil, but doing like a mini role play of that discovery call, or trying to give you tips on like getting that, like setting up that discovery call to be like a home run, like the pre-notes that you'd send to Jaclyn, or the video that you'd send to her that would say, this is the things we're going to cover in the call. This is what the proposed potential outcomes could be without sounding too pushy. Like what would you prefer to do with the next half?
I would probably prefer with the tips side, because going back to what you were saying about the whole playbook idea, I need to write this whole playbook, I need to figure it out, and having tips from people, 6 people who really know what they're doing is extremely valuable.
Then next week you'll come on and do the role play. You're not getting away with no role play, my friend.
I mean, I think step number 1, Gil, have you made like a master list of the problems that you plan on solving for HR professionals like yourself? Have you kind of done that legwork already? I mean, I'm assuming so, because you've got a product or solution that
I have it not organized enough written, but I have it all in my head and I put that all together. But I know I do need one of those things. I do need to do
that first, before anything else. Like later today, just sit down and make a bullet point list of, these are all of the common pains that HR consultants are experiencing. This is how I can alleviate that pain. And then from there, you can structure out, like Bilal Baltri is really good at this, at kind of structuring how to ask probing questions, or even offer up like a very clear explanation on, not my product solves this or whatever, but kind of putting it in their terminology, in the HR world's terminology. Because I feel like you'd be in a much more confident position going into calls and making your videos if you're able to pick like 1 or 2 topics and then kind of nail those on the calls, because that hands down, at least, 50% or so of your calls are going to experience some of those pains. And you can kind of use that to guide you in those conversations. Like most HR consultants that I'm talking to are experiencing, this, and this is kind of what my solution and what I'm going to be doing to help them moving forward looks like. And then from there, you can kind of engage that conversation, whether or not that's something that they're in the market for or would be helpful to them. And it really just opens the door for understanding their infrastructure and their environment, their current process, because they're not going to tell you any of that stuff till they feel comfortable that you know what you're talking about, and that you can, that it's actually worth spending some time on a call with you. So, keep it very relational though, don't use a lot of marketing nomenclature, look at the industry and figure out how to put everything in layman's terms, so that you're just having a conversation with a person and you're not spouting, marketing jargon.
Good thing for me, I don't know marketing nomenclature.
Yeah, and making a list of all those pains would be a very easy way to kind of look at it and be like, don't say that, say this. And also go back to the pictures. Get your kids to draw some pictures of are you experiencing this or something kind of funny? And when you're on a call, especially a video call or a Zoom call with someone, you can kind of just do something stupid and hold a picture up. And the reason I say that is because the more you as a person, Gil, because you've got a great personality, the more you bring yourself forward on those conversations, the further you're going to get. Whether it's just establishing they're not in the market, but they could refer someone that is, or, you know, hey, I'm not looking now for budgetary reasons, but call me back in 6 months or whatever the case may be. You're going to get people to open up to you more by just being yourself. So that's my advice in a nutshell.
Okay, awesome.
I
Very helpful.
would also look at those various places where you can do more A/B testing on how you're doing your outreach, to really see what's resonating, what's working, and that's just at the various points, whether it's with the people that already know you or whether it's with a net new list. Test a few things out, see how they respond, hit the market, and then adjust as you need to. Because I'm pretty fond of saying that you can try to aim for perfection, but the prospect, the customer, gets a vote, and their vote is the one that actually matters. So perfection in your eyes does not necessarily equal perfection in their eyes. So you're better off getting something out there and then adjusting after the fact than trying to do it perfect up front, because you'll waste too much time.
Can I jump in? One suggestion I have for you, Gil, is, so I used to work at TriNet where I would sell into HR all the time, and I would operate with a giver's gain mindset, especially if your target market is like a small HR company or a one man, one woman show. Like, these people probably need resources. So I would surround yourself with a solid roundtable, and I surrounded myself with a recruiter, with a CPA, with a co-working space. This way, if they needed any sort of resource, you know, you could be a connector. And if they don't need your services right this second, you're going to be top of mind and be that much more memorable than everyone else that's like trying to get in front of them. So definitely surround yourself with a team of solid resources where you can just, you know, be like, I got you. Let me introduce you to this one person.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I have tried to actually do that. That's one thing I've been working on over the last year plus, is building out that network of, you know, do you know a person who does this, and I can connect them. I actually literally just had a CEO reach out to me yesterday saying, do you know of any HR consultants who can do X? And I found him a couple of people to connect him with. So absolutely, that's well taken.
Go ahead, Alex.
To go off of what Amy was talking about, I didn't do that for a long time in terms of writing down what you're solving. Something else I didn't do is write down what their objections would be ahead of time. And that once I did that, it was a lot easier to have calls, because if I knew what they were going to say, I could already be prepared with something relatable to that would kind of answer that. The other thing I like to do for messaging, and maybe this goes to like kind of Chris's A/B testing, is I kind of do like a before and after. Once I know what their problems are, what is life before I get there, and what is life for them after, if they hire us. And so kind of thinking about like, what could you do? What does your services do that would make their life better on XYZ? And think about like, if you know what the problems are, what would life be like with your product and service, and how that would make them feel, is another thing that when I'm coming up with new messaging or trying out a new email sequence, that I try to go through that little process.
And that's one area where I will say having done the pilots ahead of time has really helped me, because it's given me an indication of, okay, this is what life is like after we've worked together, after you've gone through the framework. Now this is what they're experiencing, and how it's different than what they were experiencing before they started. I just want to point out, by the way, sorry to interrupt everything here, I have never seen Patrick Downs quiet for this long. Like, I wonder if he's playing video games over there or something. Like, I speak to him weekly, just full disclosure, he and I speak weekly, and I've never ever heard him this quiet for this long.
Listening.
We're gonna pull him in, and he's gonna deliver these knowledge bombs at the end. That's Patrick's style. But I want to take running off of what just Jaclyn was mentioning. So here's one thing I've done, Gil, that I think you could do. So prior to your call with, Jaclyn's, what would it be, like an HR director?
Yeah, an HR director, VP of HR in a company under 100 people, usually solo practitioner, maybe has a recruiter helping them out or something like that. But for the most part, they're on the leadership team. And yeah, HR director is probably a common title.
So send that loop, whatever video tool you want to use, but maybe put a presentation together with some bullet points. So basically, here's the agenda. Here's the things I want to cover. And also, like, I'm sure you all have done research. Look, I see you have these job postings, or I've read this about you guys. So kind of give her a preview of here's the things we're going to cover. And I'd keep it down to like 2 slides. And the second one is like Amy was saying, like, you want to tell a story. Today you're here and there's your kid's frown, face drawing in the first slide. And the second one, like, here's the things that we can talk about that will get you to the smiley face. So the first slide is your current state. Second slide is your second one. You add the little video of yourself in the bottom corner. So there's a personalization. And that way, like, there's no surprises in the meeting. They're already thinking about the things you're going to help them solve. That's one thing I'd consider. Yeah. And like Jaclyn said, I keep thinking Jacinda, set that agenda, right? Like, they don't want any surprises. Like, they want, because here's the other thing I always think people forget is in this pre-sales, you're already selling yourself and the expectation of what you're going to be like to work with. So if they're like, Gil doesn't even like know how to set a meeting, like, why the heck would you want to work with this guy? But if they're like, this guy is like 10 steps ahead, he's going to be amazing to work with.
Full disclosure on that, and this goes back to Chris's point about perfection. The whole experience thing means a lot to me, how I present myself, how I come across. But then sometimes I do get frozen in that, perfection of trying to be perfect instead of just doing something. And that is, I will admit, is something I'm finding a balance on.
But you've got 6 people here you can send your first Loom video to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's, listen, like, failing is okay. Like, I fail every single day. And you learn when you fail. Okay. So don't just throw that out the window. Like, sales is a test, is a lesson in rejection and misery and overcoming that. But there's great joy at the end of that painful tunnel. But one thing I'll say too, Gil, is about the whole agenda setting. I think because you're still kind of learning how the structure of your calls will work, what I would say too is map out, what does your ideal call look like to you? Like, what's your beginning and what's the end result that you feel like should come from that? Whether it's I wouldn't say a demo, because I don't think that what you're doing is probably going to equate with a demo necessarily. It's not like a technical solution. But you have to have an end goal, and you have to let them know at the beginning of the call, your goal is to figure out if that end goal makes sense to them as well. But I don't think you should be super rigid with it. I mean, most of your calls are probably going to start out with, hey, what motivated you to take the call? And the minute you say that to someone, they're like, well, I don't know. I mean, I get that on a daily from calls booked by a BDR that, like, there's a point to the call. Or, if they join for some sort of, promotional reason, or maybe you're doing a giveaway or something, like, right up front, just clear the air and be like, hey, I see you signed up for my Tumblr giveaway or whatever. Is that your only motivation for taking the call today? Or is there, what would you like to discuss? Like, tell me how I can help you. And that, I think, for you will knock that whole perfection thing on its head, because then it's just a conversation. But be clear about defining what's the point of the call, why did they join the call, and kind of what your expectation is by the end of it. We're going to determine if it makes sense to keep talking, keep having a conversation, or not. Are they comfortable with that kind of thing? Yeah.
Gil, I would also, to Amy's point, like, once you do have the pain points like down on paper, like of what the industry is seeing, where you come in, I would use that as the framework to creating a one-pager, because more often than not, people are going to ask you to send information over or recap the call or something, and you don't want to get slowed down. You want to be able to just like keep pushing the needle and moving that deal, the deal forward. in addition to setting an agenda, I would always check to see if like the 30 minutes you set aside still works, if they have a hard stop. That way you can keep yourself honest with setting up next steps when you're at the end of the call, because when you don't do that, you're giving up control and then you have to chase them most likely. So it's best while you both are there, pull up your calendars, schedule, even if it's for a time, just a placeholder, you could always push it. It's just great to like, and that will be buy-in if like they're genuinely interested in keeping the conversation going.
Well, and I'll take a page out of Patrick's, I guess, cold calling playbook. He always gives them like an out, right? It's like, I think you have this problem, but if you don't, we're fine. And I'm wondering if this would be a good kind of ending to your video, right? Like if we can do all, if I can help you with all these, great. But if I can't, that's totally cool. Like you don't want them to feel like pressure. You almost want them to feel like, well, yeah, actually, I do want to talk to you. I do have these problems.
The other thing, don't get married. Like if you have something that works for, you come out of the gate, you get your meeting, you close that deal, and you're happy with it. Don't get married to the fact that it worked, right? It worked that time. It doesn't. Sales is an odd profession in that you can do everything right and not close, and you can do almost everything wrong and still get the deal. And if you get married to one process or the other, thinking, oh, well, I did it this way the last time, so I'm going to keep repeating that, you may end up trying to instill bad habits that don't actually work against the majority of your audience, but they worked in this one case. You just want to be able to make sure you are able to step back from it and look at what works, what doesn't, why did it work? Was it something that's repeatable? Was it something that was just, I hit this person on the exact right day? Like they had this particular problem and therefore I didn't have to work as hard to get that deal over the line, that sort of thing.
So how are you feeling, Gil, about like that first piece? Like, do you feel like you can kind of start to put together, we'll call it that playbook, but do you want to double down on like, keep talking through how to make that kind of first outreach better? Or do you want to talk a little bit about, okay, you're having the meeting, kind of that, like, is the next step awkward?
I would say the outreach is probably my biggest question, my biggest hump to overcome at this point. Because because I've been a consultant for, almost 20 years now, once I'm in a conversation with a person, I know how to ask the questions. I know how to get the answers I'm looking for. I know how to build that rapport quickly. These are areas where I have worked on my skills over the years. I haven't used them in a sales context, but they're transferable skills. Whereas I would say just really honing the outreach is really just that. And then, if you want to do a role play at some point in the future, we can talk about that, because I don't want you to think that I'm trying to get out of doing that. I'm trying to soak up and learn as much as I can in the time that I have.
For sure.
One of the things on that, I think you have to make sure that you're comfortable with is, it's real easy for somebody who has fairly deep expertise in an area to basically give away free consulting. And you want to make sure you're paying attention to that. Doesn't mean there's not a bit of that that's going to go on, because you have to build up that credibility, but it's real easy for people to try to take advantage of it.
That's a good point. So like your that first meeting and even some of that outreach gives them, like, I hate to use the word teaser. So they're like, oh my goodness, like I need to talk to Gil, and even that discovery call, but you can't give, what's can't spill your candy in the lobby. Is that the saying?
Yeah, that, or give up your secret sauce, whatever it happens to be. Plenty of sayings for the same thing. So you gotta make sure you're careful, because it's easy to fall into that trap, because you do have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of information on that. You obviously building out your framework. You give up too much, they may be like, okay, well, I think I can do that on my own. They probably can't. Then they're going to come back to you after they failed, and things along those lines. But that just elongates your cycle.
So I'd say, like, take advantage of practicing the video with us after this. We can give you feedback on, like, just your messaging, obviously the content. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing right now with the cold outreach? Like right now, is it just that first email, and then if there's an open, then you do the next one?
So that's the thing, is I'm actually in the process of planning the second one, because I've gotten, you know, a good number of opens. Like I'm actually quite happy with the number of opens that the email has gotten. And like I said, even some people have clicked through to the website, all of that, still learning about me. Like Chris's HubSpot is what I'm using right now, but I'm using the free version, so I'm running out of alerts, but that's a different story. And so now I want to plan the next email of, okay, how do I inform them of who I am still, show them my value, show them I know what I'm talking about, show them, look, this is my smile, these are my wonderful kids' pictures, all of these things that will tell them that, you know, this is who I am and this is what I'm selling.
How many, if you don't mind sharing, you can give us a range, but like I'm wondering, as a question to the group, you know, for that outreach group, is it worth doing a follow-up email with a personalized video for each one? Or can you make one that just says, hey, I'm Gil, thanks for opening my email, here's a bunch of things I can help you with? Like that gives you some scalability. I mean, I guess I'd love to hear the group's thoughts on that, but I think the number will help with that, because if it's 2 or if it's 200, those are very different efforts.
How many people have opened it?
Yeah, how many people you need to send your second email to, or you want to?
My guess, I'd have to look at the number. I think it's probably about 50 now.
So I would not do personalized, individually personalized for that. I don't think at the end of the day, I mean, like in that initial kind of hello, or thank you for opening my email. Some people are going to watch like a fraction of the video, you know, and you can trace all of that, but I don't think it's necessary to put their name in it and to hyper personalize it. Just because it's going to make your job that much harder when you're trying to ramp and grow. And so I don't, that's just my personal opinion. I think you can get away with like a, you know, a semi-personalized, like, you know, thanks for opening the email, here's how I can help you, blah, 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 as opposed to a, hey, Dave, you know, and like with the sign. And I mean, all that takes, you know, a minute or two to write the sign and create all of that and do that. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that.
Everybody else think?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on if you have like a critical mass of a particular name, you could make it personalized, but it's actually generic, right? Like the millions of Francois. You're gonna nail it there, right? But if you look like Chris is an idiotically common name, things along those lines, you may end up with saying, hey, I've got 15 people that have clicked through that have Michael as their name. Okay, might be super simple to say, hey, on these, I'm going to personalize it. I'm not going to do it across everything else because it's not enough, or Mary or something along those lines, whatever it happens to be. But I think you have to sort of determine that threshold because it's going to be an impact.
I feel like Karen is big in the HR world.
but I
everyone
mean,
thinks they're Karen. That they're not necessarily actually named Karen. They're considered a Karen.
Yeah, and and it's not to disagree with Amy, but I think
nobody's going to get offended over that these days.
Wait a second. Am I supposed to be the Karen in this equation?
No. HR is the
I mean,
Karen
I
in
can
this
do
situation.
that, but no, that's funny. Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you so much, Amy. I'm just saying I think it really matters. Like if Gil's going, no, these 50 prospects are high value. I think I want to spend the 2 minutes, or it's probably more like 5 minutes, because I think Patrick put Nick and Jaclyn put Nick's profile in there. You could go and research each of their LinkedIn profiles and have a hyper personalized one. So I think it's pretty tough to answer. Is it worth it? That's ultimately, I guess, your decision, Gil, right? Like, do you think it's worth sending that personalized, I don't want to say video or email. Video is a bit more work. I think it's got more value. I don't know. It's a tough one, right? I mean,
I'm going to be personalizing the videos for the people who know me. I'm going to be sending out individual videos for those people, right? For whomever's already a LinkedIn contact, people who already know who I am. I'm going to send them hey Francois type of video. However, maybe this is something I A/B test also, is that I send out a whole bunch of them, which is just unpersonalized, and a bunch of them with their name in it. Maybe I just test
Here's
it
what
that
you
way.
do there though. When you do that, you need to track your time. Like how much time did it take for you to create the non-personalized video and send it out, and what's your response rate on that? And then also track how long did it take you to create times 20 individual videos and the response rate on that. I think that because you're kind of scaling up from the beginning, you're going to have to kind of create your own metrics, if you will, but that will give you a sense of the value of your time as well. If you didn't see, an overwhelming response from the individualized videos that you sent out, and it was comparable to what you got on the non-individualized, and that took you like 1 minute as opposed to, an hour even, there's value in doing the non-individualized. So I don't know, I look at it from that, like I've got 1,500 accounts, so there's no way I can do individualized video for 1,500 accounts, but you could, because your pool might be a lot smaller than mine. And then you might within that pool have 10 solid ass contacts that you really want to kind of, just encourage that relationship through an individualized video. But hey, I wanted to ask you a question too, because you mentioned like the price point being, $2,000 USD and how to get to that, ask for that. So how do people pay you?
What do you mean?
When you're going to sell them the solution, do you have like a system in place for, do they just Venmo you, or what is the system? What is the process?
I have an invoice send an invoice through QuickBooks, and
Okay.
they can either pay through credit card or money transfer.
Okay. So do you have like a portfolio or something like, proposal already kind of built out a little bit of what the invoice would look like kind of when they decide to pull the trigger? It's like, okay, here's your email. This is everything that you're guaranteed. Here's like your pretty package. And then here's the invoice. Do you have that done already?
I have most of the pretty package. I haven't actually organized what the invoice specifically looks like yet. No.
Well, that's, I just was curious how far in the process you were on that. But I think that, you have to be confident in what you're asking for on the financial side of it. And I would say by, the initial discovery call, maybe a follow-up call, they should be able to kind of confirm whether or not they're willing to pull a trigger on that price point. But I think because you're so early in this too, you've already done a pilot, don't be afraid to actually talk about price and the value of what you're doing, and ask them if they feel like it's a fair value. I think that will kind of break down those barriers a little bit on the initial conversation surrounding price, and kind of getting people to take that step. Because at some point in time, you got to ask them to pay you, if you're actually going to sell it to them. So I feel like I'm wondering if there's even like some more calls we could do after the fact on like how you actually nail that close, kind of what like that looks like. So you're not dragging out the sales cycle, indefinitely with tire kickers and people that are, and they don't actually like give you the value that you've spent in your time kind of building up that relationship, and, you're ready to deliver the product. They need to pull the trigger on the financial side. So how comfortable are you in asking for the sale?
Getting there. More comfortable than I once was. Probably some value in learning some tips from you as well there at some point.
Okay.
But I believe confidently in the value. The price point was chosen, and I spoke to my pilot individuals about the price point and everything. It was chosen in a way that there's no question in their minds it represents that value, but it's a small enough amount that they're not going to have to put in a major proposal or anything through to their CEO to get it. I was trying to find that sort of middle ground. So it from their perspective, they're like, yeah, there's no question the value is there for it because of what it provides. It's just, I am trying not to go too high exactly for that reason, to not stretch out the sales process of, at the end of the first call, they go back to the CEO, they come back to me and saying, okay, now we need a 3-page proposal on it, and you need to speak to these 5 people to prove yourself.
I don't think you'll ever have to do that for $2,000. And if you do, like, that company is probably struggling because it's way too many man hours to make a decision over $2,000. But I think the more confident you are in how you ask, or just kind of talking them through like, and here's how you buy this product, or here's how you buy this. and in a friendly kind of relational way. Like it's an easy price point. You have to be confident, you know, in one, that you're confident that that amount is a great value, and two, not allowing yourself to drag out that sales cycle, because at some point in time, like, they're going to have that come to Jesus moment where they're either going to pull the trigger and buy it, or it's a no, not right now, or, you know, it's a no, we don't have the budget, we're not interested, whatever. So don't be afraid to kind of clear some of the clutter away, and by asking a little bit sooner than you may feel comfortable
So
with.
is
you
it
know?
inappropriate to say shit or get off the pot?
No,
Yes.
not at all.
Sometimes.
Which-
First call, yes.
Yeah.
Which is amazing how many times I've actually literally had to say that to a young child, but that's a different
I
story.
mean, in the world of HR, I think that's entirely plausible.
What do you guys think about, well, go ahead, Jaclyn.
I was just going to say, Gil, like, something to keep in mind. This was told to me when I was back at TriNet, and it's stuck with me ever since. If you sell on price, you're never going to be cheap enough. If you sell on value, you can never charge enough. So, and then that was just a really strong line that, you know, if you believe in what you're doing, then, you know, how much is giving back someone's time worth to them, essentially. And then the other line I heard the other day is, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate for.
Yeah.
So the sales starts when they give you an objection or when they give you pushback for the price. And that's when you actually are challenged with getting into the nitty gritty. And the other thing I'll say that I think will be your biggest tool in helping you grow and helping you finesse your calls. It could be your discovery, your demo calls. Have all of your calls recorded. You know, pick up on their body language. If you're over talking, if there's an even flow of communication, and that way you'll also be able to pick up on the pain points that, you know, what's becoming a trend, and, you know, how you look, like Zoom etiquette and all of that stuff. So I think video, I can't stress enough, is going to be your best friend. Record yourself in Loom, record your calls, and because when you're pitching, you're so in it that it's hard to kind of have a bird's eye view of everything going on. So I strongly recommend replaying your calls to yourself.
I hate my voice so much.
But I was gonna,
putting subtitles on my videos when I put out videos is a very painful process.
Don't
I
do
agree
that.
with you, Jaclyn. I appreciate the point, and it's definitely well taken. I just hate my voice so much.
well, what I was gonna ask the group is, what do you guys think about in his pre-meeting video? So here's the pain you have today, today's story. Here's the future, how I'm gonna solve it. And then just adding something about, and like almost you know, if we move ahead, this is what it looks like. It's 2 weeks, it's 3 weeks of work. Like, not in a salesy, pushy way, but I think people often, like, they're like, okay, I have a problem. How are you gonna solve it? And how long is it gonna take? Because just telling people how much it takes, like, they may be like, okay, does that mean we have 10 sessions after this, 1 session? So I think if you paint that picture for them, then, like, you know, we're not avoiding the dollar amount, but then they're like, in their mind, they can be like, oh, okay. So I think adding that, I don't know what everybody else thinks. I think adding that would be helpful.
It's
Well, I would say,
huge.
sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but I want to add on that the timeline and everything is absolutely part of the selling on this,
Okay.
because one of the biggest pain points for these people is that they are living with overwhelm every day of their life, much more so, especially through COVID. And if I can present them something that I can help them create change where they don't have to work for more than 2 hours a week on it. That's something
Yeah.
I'm very clear on them. And I say, look, this isn't something where you have, 15, 20 hours a week where you have to dedicate to this project. It's like a half hour, 45 minutes a week. And it's a 6-week cut and dry process. That
Yeah,
is absolutely
that's
one of
big.
the things I try to say
Yeah.
to them. Like, this is what it looks like. This is, us talking for half an hour. I give the document of the activities, all of that kind of thing. And it's not overwhelmed. It's not increasing their overwhelm.
If you've identified the degree of the pain, how much pain they have, and what that impact is, it's really easy. This is sort of getting back to our pricing discussion from a minute ago. It's easy to sit there and say at the end, I use this all the time, I'm confused. You said these were the problems. You said this was the degree of those problems, and this was the impact of not doing anything to solve those. And you're telling me that's not worth $2,000, $2,500, whatever that dollar dollar value is to you, explain that to me and force them to give you a rationale if they push back on it. Because discounting is just competing against yourself, right? You have some goal that you're going to try to hit for the year, or for the quarter, or for the month. And every time you discount, that means the number of calls you're going to have to make, the number of other outreaches you're going to have to, the number of proposals, all that starts to increase. And the more you discount, the more those metrics all have to go up in order for you to hit the same numbers.
You know, and that's really, I appreciate that, because that's one thing I don't want to discount. I don't want to do that. Like I said, I believe very strongly in the value that's there. And I appreciate, because, you know, I need to learn exactly how to convince people of that and make sure that that doesn't happen. So thank you.
Sure.
Well, we're up for our time. I appreciate everybody giving their time up. The last thing I wanted to add is, if you don't like the sound of your voice, just, you know, get on TikTok and use like hello from Adele. Great way to break into somebody's inbox, right? I mean, but no, all jokes aside, I appreciate everybody giving time. Appreciate you being, you know, the center of this, and you know, just sharing everything, Gil. So appreciate that. But this was awesome, guys. I appreciate everybody's time, and have a great Friday and weekend.
Yes, thank you all so much. Everyone except Patrick had a lot of really value. Seriously, there's a lot of practical things that I'll be able to put into play. And I really, really appreciate your time helping me out on this. You know, it's something that I was like I said, I was never in sales. I spent 42 years of my life never even thinking about this. So I feel like I still have a mountain to climb, but it's a lot easier with tools that you guys give me. So thank you.
No problem.
For sure.
Take care,
I
guys.
mean, you know what? You've come a long way, even in a year.
Oh,
like,
yeah. So much.
The first episode, like, I know if some of you go to drop, I know, but the first episode, it was like the funniest conversation ever. Like, you were a talker, and I feel like you were like so much more like even keeled, like you knew exactly what you wanted to say. It was great. So I feel like just in a year, your ability to kind of like direct a call and run a meeting and all of that, like your confidence is just, it's just huge. So kudos to that.
Thank you. Going on 5 on Friday a year ago definitely supported that. So thank you.
Awesome.
Except Patrick.
Yeah, except Patrick.
All right, I'm going to end it now. Awkward.
All right.
End. Awkward end.
Awkward end.